Today, me and Pikachu are going to introduce 10 Japanese bands that you should listen to. Les Rallizes Dénudés are quite unique, mysterious, and full of interesting stories. One of their bassists, Moriaki Wakabayashi, hijacked an airplane.
3月31日朝、羽田を飛び立った日本航空の淀号は赤軍派の学生ら9人に乗っ取られ、北朝鮮へ向かうよう要求されて福岡に緊急着陸しました。外国の出来事とばかり思っていたハイジャックを目の当たりにして空港は大混乱。
Initially, they were trying to fly to Cuba, but because of circumstances, limitation of the airplane, they fly to North Korea. And later, Moriaki Wakabayashi had to seek political asylum in North Korea and have been living there ever since.
名前は若林森明です。で、ハイジャック前に、この長髪をバッサリ切って、これから僕は革命家になる、朝鮮に飛ぶっていう飛んじゃったんですね。で、今日まで来たと。
Another interesting fact about Les Rallizes Dénudés is that they have never put out any studio records and recordings, so what we have heard them is like exclusively of bootlegs. Also, look at them. Don't they look like what you typically expect from Francophiles, radically left-wing, nihilist, destructive young people with provocatively cool style?
で、日本のロック界を革命しようと、ね、いう壮大な野望を抱いて、で、名前は裸のラリーズでいこうって。それから裸のっていうのは、そのまま生の自分を押し出して、誰のものでもないものをやろうという志だけはぼわっと高くて。
After World War II, America undertook its military occupation in Japan, which lasted 7 years. And after that period, America and Japan have become kind of like close allies ever since. Anyway, my point is that Japan was undergoing Americanization in political, economical, and also cultural aspects. Rock and roll was originally from America, and the band Les Rallizes Dénudés' primary influence were American bands, such as the 1960s San Francisco psychedelic scene of Jefferson Airplane, the Grateful Dead, and the Dregs, proto-punk of NC5 and the Stooges, as well as free jazz. It sounds kind of cliche now, but it was to be expected, I guess. Actually, I discovered this band from a video comment on my shoegaze video, who said that Les Rallizes Dénudés pioneered shoegaze in the 60s and 70s. And there is certainly some truth to that. Repetitive joining passages and discordant feedbacks. The Velvet Underground released the album White Slice White Heat in 1968, an album where they also experimented with distorted noise. It's hard to dictate when exactly did Les Rallizes Dénudés start to do the feedback, shoegazy thing, but it's interesting that there are quite some comparisons of the bands with the Velvet Underground.
現代の懐かしのロックミュージックですけど、最近ある人がこう送ってくれた中にベビーメタルっていうのがあって、お、これなかなか面白いじゃないかと。
I discovered this band Happy End through a Pitchfork review of the album Kazamachi Roman. By the way, I don't speak Japanese at all, so please forgive my Japanese pronunciation in this video. I am just gonna try to pronounce these Japanese names quite literally. Yeah. One of the songs of the album is actually included in Lost in Translation soundtrack. Rolling Stone Japan rated this album as the best Japanese rock album of all time. How do you think? Do you agree?
It's a happy end!
Happy End are influenced by Moby Grape, Buffalo Springfield, and the Grateful Dead. However, they remind me at the most of Neil Young who is like one of my favorite musicians of all time. Subtle yearnings accumulating a sublime and nostalgic beauty. Kazamachi Roman literally means Wing City Romance in Japanese, as an ode to the older and less modern Tokyo before the 1964 Tokyo Summer Olympics. Happy End's band members later on also become major figures pioneering the 80s Japanese city pop. In the 70s, there were arguments regarding whether rock music should be sung in Japanese or English, and some argue that because rock music's mother tongue is English, and therefore Japanese musicians should also sing in English. However, Haruomi Hosono of Happy End argued that Japanese musicians should find a way to sing rock music in Japanese despite Uncle Sam's cultural influence. Personally, I also massively prefer when Chinese bands just sing in Mandarin because their English language pretending are usually weird and awkward. Among the 10 Japanese bands that I talk about today, I got to know Pizzicato Five the earliest. One day I was just reading through Matto Records roster, and then I found this band. Pizzicato Five are a representative band of Japan's Shibuya-kei music scene of mid to late 90s. Shibuya is a commercial center of Tokyo, famous for its youth culture of fashion and nightlife. One of Shibuya-kei's main techniques is dubbing, mixing, and sampling different sources of music together. Journalist W. David Marks knows that Shibuya-kei musicians were less interested in having original sounds than they were about having a sound that reflected their personal taste. It's also funny that Simon Reynolds remarks Shibuya-kei musicians as hipster phenomenon. Personally, I don't really think mixing music is necessarily unoriginal, and DJing and editing can also be a form of creativity. Interestingly, Shibuya-kei's musical influences are similar to the 90s English avant-pop band Stereolabs, Bird's Backrack, 60s pop, bossa nova, lounge music, and 80s British indie pop, which Tim Ging of Stereolab actually formed a band of such genre called McCarthy. Well, Stereolab and Pizzicato Five do have a similar retro-futurist vibe. Stereolab are less pop and more experimental, and Pizzicato Five can be quite twee, you can say. Oh no, Pizzicato Five can be quite kawaii. Other representative Shibuya-kei acts are Flipper's Guitar, Cornelius, and Fantastic Plastic Machine. One YouTube comment about Shonen Knife is that if Ramones were Japanese girls, they would sound like this. Shonen Knife are indeed influenced by Ramones. They even released a cover album in tribute to Ramones. The indie label K Records released their album A Burning Farm from 1985, and later on Kurt Cobain became a huge fan of Shonen Knife and invited them to tour with Nirvana.
When you guys put up the Burning Farm EP on cassette, well, Calvin, my friend Calvin from Olympia, he sold me that tape. I bought that tape from him because he works at K Records, and I heard it and I fell in love with it. And it's taken a long time for people to hear you guys, and we're glad that we finally got to go on tour with you. And now a lot of people, at least in England, love you guys.
However, one of the members of Shonen Knife later remarked, "I didn't know who Nirvana were before that, but they looked weird, and I was scared. so I didn't want to tour with them at first. Shonen Knife and the 80s indie pop scene in general was a breath of fresh air to punk by going against its usual gloom, violence, and aggression.
Shonen boy have very cute feelings, and knife have very keen or strange feelings. So cute and keen combined together.
By singing about eating jelly beans and cute animals with simple English and even grammar mistakes, Shonen Knife sort of indeed played the stereotype of women being busy and apolitical. Nevertheless, it's easy to see why Kurt Cobain was so obsessed with 80s DIY indie pop for the purity, innocence, authenticity, and a carefree attitude towards musical expression, disregarding any specific label, identity, or being perceived as cool or not.
Hello everyone, I am Pikachu. Come join Sal's Encounter Discord community and support her on Patreon to win the rarest Pokemon card. Link in description. Thank you very much.
Ruins are another band that I know because YouTube video comments. On my math rock video, I didn't get to include the band Ruins, and I should have, and I didn't include them because of my own ignorance. And a key feature of math rock is the irregular, odd-time signatures, and Ruins were already doing that in the mid-80s, which is a similar period with Black Flag. Ruins have a very manic drummer called Tatsuya Yoshida, who is seen as very influential among the Japanese underground. He also shouts like a maniac when drumming as well. No wonder he got quite a slim build. I mean, he must burn a lot of calories when performing. Ruins have collaborated with the avant-garde jazz musician John Zorn, and in my opinion, they definitely belong to the similar alley of boundless experimentation. Boredoms are a band that I personally quite like. Their album, Super AE from 1988, is listed among Pitchfork the best 150 albums of the 90s. This album has long psychedelic jamming, electronica elements a little bit, distortion, religious chanting, and hysterical yelling. My favorite song is one called Super Going, kind of like the krautrock band Noi performing repetitive noise rock. If one album is a combination of an energy drink, a knife, boner pills, and a warm fluffy blanket at night, it's this album. So yeah, get this album, and you will never need to buy those things. In the 90s, Boredoms used to tour with Nirvana, and these two bands even jammed together at some points during the tour, and Kurt Cobain was a big fan of Boredoms. Boredoms are sometimes labeled as Japan noise. Japan noise is a term to describe the numerous Japanese noise rock acts. It's a kind of like Anglophone-centric term. By the way, I cannot read Japanese, so all the information that I got was written in English. So I guess the things that I say is kind of a little bit Anglophone-centric as well. Other representative Japan noise bands are Merzbow, Hitsujibungaku, Incapacitants, and Melts Banana. On the music review website Rachel Music, the number one album in the year of 1996 is Japanese dub dream pop band Fishmans' album Long Season with a rating of 4.91. And number two is the DJ Shadows Introducing Blah Blah album with a rating of 4.13. Fishman gained a cult following in the 21st century through online music discussions and forums after the vocalist Shinji Sado's Sudden Death in 1999. Shinji Sado has a unique androgynous voice. They changed from a more upbeat reggae rhythms into a more melancholic, ambient, dreamy sound in their later years, notably the album Long Seasons. Long Season is a symphony with spacey, lush, prolonged instrumentals painting a serenely brooding atmosphere in a Japanese forest.
You are so corny!
I have not been to Japan, so maybe I'm just drawing stereotypes. I feel like shoegaze, with its very solitary atmosphere and emotional volatility hidden beneath many layers, is quite fitting to the stereotypes of Japanese culture. Shoegaze initially formed in the UK, which is also a country with a series of isolated islands away from the main continent. Does anyone feel there are some similarities between these two countries? You probably also know that Kevin Shields of My Bloody Valentine did a soundtrack for the movie Lost in Translation, a movie set in Tokyo. Luminous Orange are a Japanese shoegaze band formed in 1992, which is a lot earlier than the other Japanese shoegaze bands such as My Dead Girlfriend, Tokyo Shoegazer. Year masters of the English shoegaze band Pale Saints collaborated with Luminous Orange, and he co-wrote and sang in their song called Supercar. So yeah, that's a proof of tie between British and Japanese shoegaze. Next band is called Number Girl, an important band in the Japanese alternative indie rock from Fukuoka, Japan. There was a lively alternative scene in Fukuoka, Japan in the 90s, with bands like Panic Smile, Mosan Tombender, and Rontag. When I listened to Number Girl for the first time, I was like, this is my kind of band, my kind of sound. Because I have soft spots for emo-ish melodic noise rock with a vibe of foolishness and recklessness, such as Archers Love, Superchunk, and Dinosaur Jr. One of the Number Girl songs is named as Pixie Do, and it's not surprising that they are influenced by Husker Du, Pixies, and Iggy Pop. In 1999, Number Girl released the album Schoolgirl Distortional Addict. Does anyone think the name is a little bit creepy? Do you think the name is creepy?
Not as creepy as you.
Supposedly, this album is about high school and girls. It kind of reminds me of Weezer's Pincushion album. Young male expressing anxious, lustful horniness through musical aggression. Number Girl has influenced many Japanese indie rock bands such as Baseball Beer, Asian Kung Fu Generation, Trickles, and Kinoko Teikoku. Hitsujibungaku are an all-female indie rock band that I have been obsessed with now. These three characters means sheep literature. Cute name, isn't it? As much as I like these bands, I think Hitsujibungaku musically are not really groundbreaking or innovative. They just write really good, dreamy, soothing indie rock songs. The main songwriter of the band is the vocalist Moka Shusuka. A very talented melody writer. There is another all-female Japanese band that I quite like, called Lucie too. One day I was listening to a song of this band, Lucie too, and then I just started crying on the streets. No joke. I just found the song to be so bittersweet and so beautiful.
まる街二人包み込んだら
To feel a fleeting, joyous moment and then trying to catch it, keep it, and make it everlasting in your heart. I just have to find some bathroom to hide for 5 minutes at a time.
その手は見切れない
Okay, so that's the 10 Japanese bands that I was trying to talk about today. And if you like this video, please give a like button down below. And if there are other Japanese bands that you like and I didn't talk about, yeah, please comment down below. If you want to check out the playlist of this video as well as all the videos on my channel, you can check out my Patreon page. Also, I really want to thank my Patreon subscribers so far. I'm really grateful, and honestly I didn't really expect much. You're also welcome to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month to support the channel, to make it more sustainable in some ways. When I was just starting this channel, I was trying to make a project of like kind of regional. I was trying to talk about 10 bands from UK and 10 bands from the US, 10 bands from China, and 10 bands from Western Europe. And I kind of want to continue the project of 10 bands from different countries or region. Yeah. One of the reasons is that I find the bands featured in my channel are very, how to say, English language spoken Anglophone focused, which to be honest is what I know about the most and also what I listen to the most. But I kind of don't really want my channel to kind of, how to say, if you say narrow in some ways. I'm also planning to talk about Sweden and Brazil, New Zealand, and some other. And so if your country got some cool alternative indie bands or just any other not rock bands or jazz, whatever, yeah, you can comment down below that, yeah, if you think your country got some really cool music, yeah, comment down below. Yeah, and I might do a video about that country. Also, I want to do some videos that doesn't take me so long to edit, and so that I can upload more often. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye bye.